The Endeavour drifted silently through the dark void of space, its engines humming with a steady rhythm as it approached the uncharted system. Captain Mara Quinn stood at the helm, her eyes focused on the swirling mass of nebulae and distant stars ahead. The crew of the Endeavour had made countless discoveries in the past, but this mission was different. This was their first real chance to make history, to uncover the secrets of an ancient race that had vanished long before humanity ever dreamed of reaching the stars. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," Lieutenant Darius Harper, the ship's navigator, called out from the console. Quinn nodded, her heart rate quickening. She glanced over at Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's lead archaeologist. "Any ideas yet, Dr. Vasquez?" Elena leaned forward, scanning the data streaming across her monitor. "The readings are odd. There's no sign of any known civilization here, but something is definitely out there. The scans are picking up structures buried deep beneath the surface of that planet." The planet in question was small, a lifeless rock surrounded by an eerie silence. It had once been part of a thriving star system, but the civilization that called it home had long since disappeared, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. The vaults hidden in its depths, however, suggested they were far more advanced than anyone could have imagined. "Prepare the landing party," Quinn ordered, a spark of excitement in her voice. "I want to know what we're dealing with here." The Endeavour descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, its hull trembling as it broke through the clouds. A barren, gray landscape stretched out below them, littered with jagged mountains and deep, dark craters. The ship's landing gear settled with a soft thud, and the crew quickly suited up, preparing for the expedition that could change everything. The ground team, Quinn, Vasquez, Harper, and a few others, moved swiftly through the desolate landscape, their boots crunching against the rocky terrain. They followed the coordinates directly to an imposing structure half buried in the ground. It looked ancient, weathered by millennia of neglect, but unmistakably crafted with purpose and precision. The air was still, the only sound the occasional gust of wind whistling through the canyon-like cracks. "Here," Vasquez said, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. She was standing before a set of massive doors, carved with symbols that none of them could understand. She traced her gloved fingers along the markings, noting how the patterns seemed to pulse with a faint energy. "There's something behind this door. I can feel it," Harper added, eyes wide with excitement. Captain Quinn stepped forward, her mind racing. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. She gave the order to begin the process of unlocking the door, and as the team worked, the structure rumbled softly, almost as if the vault was waking from a long slumber. Minutes passed before the door finally gave way, revealing the true wonder hidden within. Inside was a vast chamber filled with rows of ancient, shimmering machines. At the center of it all, suspended in the air, was a holographic display, a blueprint, constantly shifting and reforming, outlining something that made Quinn's heart skip a beat: the design for an artificial planet, a world built from the ground up, shaped not by nature, but by the hands of those who had long since vanished. Humanity's future was now inextricably tied to the legacy of this forgotten civilization. "We didn't just find ships," Quinn murmured, her voice tinged with awe. "We found the key to building entire worlds." The crew stood in stunned silence as the holographic display flickered, showing intricate schematics of an entire artificial planet. Its core, its atmosphere, and its vast ecosystems, all meticulously crafted by hands that had long since turned to dust. For a moment, the weight of the discovery settled heavily in the air. They weren't just on the brink of understanding advanced technology. They were standing on the precipice of rewriting the very future of humanity. But before they could fully process what they had uncovered, the calm was shattered by the sound of a shrill alarm blaring throughout the ship. Quinn's thoughts snapped back to the present as Lieutenant Harper's voice cut through the panic. "Captain, we're receiving an incoming transmission. It's not from Earth." Quinn's heart skipped a beat. They had barely scratched the surface of the vault's secrets, and already someone, had noticed. She nodded sharply, signaling to Harper to put the transmission on screen. The face that appeared on the display was cold and alien, with sharp, angular features and skin the color of polished obsidian. The figure's piercing eyes glowed faintly as they stared directly at the crew. "I am Tarek, representative of the Xanthari Dominion," the figure said, their voice smooth and commanding. "We have detected your presence in our space, and we demand that you relinquish all findings immediately. The technology you have uncovered belongs to us." Quinn's mind raced as the implications of the message stank in. The Xanthari were known across the galaxy as an ancient, powerful species, one that ruled vast sectors of space with an iron fist. And now, they had discovered humanity's discovery. "Relinquish." Quinn's voice was steady, despite the rising tension. "We just found this technology. It's not yours to claim." Tarek's lips curled into a thin, unreadable smile. "Everything within this region belongs to the Xanthari. Your kind was never meant to reach this point. We have ruled over this galaxy for millennia, and your little discovery does not change that. If you resist, we will destroy you." The transmission cut out abruptly, leaving a silence thick with impending danger. Quinn exchanged glances with her crew, all of them acutely aware of the sudden shift in their mission. This wasn't just about exploration anymore. It was about survival. "Harper, get us back to Earth." "Now," Quinn ordered, her voice sharp and decisive. "Alert command that we've been targeted by the Xanthari. This is no longer just an archaeological expedition. We're about to be in a war for our lives." Harper's hands flew over the controls, but as he did, his brow furrowed. "Captain, I'm trying to initiate the jump sequence, but there's something wrong. There's an energy signature coming from the planet we just left. It's massive." Quinn's stomach dropped. The vault's secrets weren't just some forgotten relics of an extinct civilization. They were a beacon. And now, the Xanthari knew humanity had found it. Worse yet, they were coming, and they were bringing an entire fleet. A series of beeps interrupted her thoughts. A large red dot blinked on the radar. "They're here," Harper said, his voice tense. "A full Xanthari battle fleet. They followed us." The entire ship seemed to shudder as the Endeavor powered up, preparing for the impending conflict. Quinn stood tall, her mind racing, knowing that this discovery, this breakthrough, had just become a curse. The crew had uncovered the key to building entire worlds. Now they had to fight to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. "Prepare for battle," Quinn said, her voice cold. "We're not going down without a fight." The Endeavor shuddered again as the Xanthari fleet closed in, their massive warships hovering ominously just beyond the ship's defensive range. Quinn's mind raced, her hand gripping the edge of the command chair as she surveyed the tactical display. The Xanthari weren't playing games. They were here for one thing, and one thing only: the vault's technology. "We've got no time to waste, Captain," Lieutenant Harper called out, his fingers flying across the console. "The fleet's outgunned us, but we're not completely defenseless. The alien tech we've discovered, it's compatible with our systems. We might be able to rig something to give us an edge." Quinn looked at him, hope flickering for the first time since the transmission from Tarek. "What do you have in mind?" Harper's face lit up with determination. "It's risky, but I think I can reroute the power from our propulsion systems and boost our weapons output. We might not be able to outrun them, but we can make sure they don't expect us to put up a fight." Quinn's gaze shifted to Dr. Vasquez, who had been quietly reviewing the vault's data, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Is there anything in those designs that might help us?" Quinn asked, her voice low, but insistent. Elena glanced up, her eyes wide with realization. "Yes," she said, voice trembling with excitement. "The blueprints aren't just for building planets. There's a secondary protocol embedded in the design, an energy conversion mechanism. It's unlike anything we've seen before. If we could adapt it to our systems, it could amplify our weapons output exponentially." Quinn's heart raced. It was the kind of risk that could backfire horribly, but it was their only shot. Make it happen, Vasquez. Harper, get us into position for a counterattack. We'll need to strike fast before they bring their full force to bear. As the crew scrambled to prepare, Quinn looked out the viewport. The Xanthari ships loomed large, their sleek, dark shapes intimidating. The Endeavor wasn't built for combat. It was a scientific vessel, but with the right modifications, it could be more than just a research ship. It could be humanity's weapon against the overwhelming might of the Xanthari. The seconds felt like hours. Quinn's pulse pounded in her ears as the crew worked in a frenzy. The tension in the air was thick, and every movement seemed to stretch the limits of time. "Captain," Harper called out, his voice steady, "we're ready. Weapons are primed, and the power boost is online. But this is it. Once we engage, there's no turning back." Quinn nodded. "Let's make it count." The Endeavor lurched forward, its engines humming with newfound power. The ship's weapon systems flared to life, sending arcs of energy streaking out toward the Xanthari fleet. It was like a small storm of lightning, but enough to catch the aliens off guard. Several of their ships staggered, energy shields crackling under the force of the blast. The Xanthari retaliated instantly, launching a series of devastating counterattacks. The Endeavor rocked with each hit, the hull creaking under the pressure. But humanity wasn't giving up yet. "Target their command ship," Quinn barked. "We need to cripple their leadership. If we take out their flagship, the rest of the fleet might retreat." Harper executed the command with precise timing, the ship's enhanced weapons locking onto the Xanthari flagship. The Endeavor unleashed another barrage, the powerful energy beams cutting through the void like laser-guided missiles. One of the beams hit the flagship directly, causing it to shudder violently and sending sparks flying from its hull. The Xanthari fleet faltered, their coordination disrupted. The Endeavor wasn't just holding its ground. It was winning the first round. But Quinn knew this was only the beginning. The Xanthari were far from defeated, and they would soon adapt. "We've made our mark," Quinn said, her voice steely. "But this won't be enough. Get ready for round two." Harper and Vasquez exchanged grim looks. Quinn could see the fatigue setting in, the weight of their victory tempered by the reality of the war ahead. But as the Xanthari ships regrouped and prepared for another assault, she felt a surge of something that she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Humanity might not have the numbers or the firepower of the Xanthari, but they had something far more dangerous, a relentless will to survive. And they wouldn't stop fighting until the last breath. The Endeavor drifted in the cold void of space, its hull battered from the intense battle with the Xanthari fleet. Captain Quinn stood at the helm, her mind racing. The fight had been hard, but it had also been a wake-up call. The Xanthari weren't going to back down, and their overwhelming superiority in both numbers and firepower made that clear. Despite their initial victory, the Endeavor couldn't hold out forever. And yet, just as Quinn was preparing to assess their next move, the ship's communications console blinked with an incoming transmission. She hesitated before tapping the screen, a sinking feeling in her chest. The Xanthari's face appeared again. Tarek, their cold, calculating representative. His sharp eyes locked onto Quinn's with an unnerving calmness. "Captain Quinn," Tarek's voice boomed from the speaker, "you've proven yourselves more resourceful than we anticipated. I now propose a different course of action." Quinn raised an eyebrow. "A course of action that involves us walking away." Tarek's lips curved into a thin, almost amused smile. "No, I am extending an offer. We, the Xanthari Dominion, recognize the potential of your species. The technology you have found could serve us both. A joint venture where we combine our resources to unlock the full potential of the vaults." Quinn's mind raced. A partnership with the Xanthari. She knew the history of this ancient species. They were ruthless, manipulative, and their thirst for control over the galaxy knew no bounds. But what choice did they have? The Endeavor was damaged, and Earth was far from ready to face a full-scale invasion. "I'm listening," Quinn said cautiously, her eyes never leaving Tarek's image on the screen. Tarek's voice softened, almost as if he was trying to present the deal as something of a grand favor. "We can provide the military might to protect your world while you focus on the research. Together, we will build the artificial world you've seen in the vault. And in exchange, we will share the knowledge and resources needed to harness the full power of the vaults, creating an empire that will stretch beyond anything your species has ever dreamed." The temptation was there, and Quinn could feel it. The Xanthari were offering them protection, knowledge, and access to unprecedented technology. It would allow humanity to advance far beyond their current capabilities. But at what cost? Would this partnership be a step toward humanity becoming subjugated to a power-hungry empire? Quinn didn't trust Tarek. She couldn't. But the alternative, continuing to fight a war they couldn't win, was equally unappealing. She glanced at her officers, who were silently watching the transmission, awaiting her decision. "Let me consult with my team," Quinn said, her voice firm. "I'll contact you soon with our response." Tarek nodded, the faintest flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. "I will await your answer. Choose wisely, Captain Quinn. The future of your species is at stake." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Quinn alone with her thoughts. She turned to her senior officers. "What do we think?" Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke first, her voice hesitant. "The opportunity is tempting, Captain. The technology the Xanthari possess is advanced, and combining it with what we've learned from the vaults, it could change everything for humanity. But we'd be giving them control." Lieutenant Harper chimed in, his tone cautious. "They've already shown they're willing to fight us. We can't trust them. But do we have any other choice?" Quinn exhaled slowly, trying to process it all. They had uncovered the power to build entire worlds. Could they risk it falling into the hands of the Xanthari? Or was this a chance to turn the tables, to use their technology for humanity's benefit? "If we go through with this, we'll need to stay vigilant," Quinn said, her voice resolute. "This alliance may be our only option, but we'll play by our rules, not theirs." The crew nodded in agreement, a sense of determination settling over them. For better or worse, humanity was now on the brink of something greater. And whether they were building worlds or tearing down empires, they would do it on their terms. The Endeavor drifted toward the newly established outpost, a barren stretch of space far from Earth's watchful eyes, but no less important. The uneasy alliance between humanity and the Xanthari was now in full swing. Quinn had reluctantly agreed to Tarek's offer, though every instinct screamed at her to be cautious. They had shared the vault's secrets, and now they would begin the monumental task of building the artificial world the blueprints had promised. The project was ambitious, beyond anything humanity had ever conceived. The technology they had uncovered was both awe-inspiring and terrifying in its scope. For the first time, humanity had the power to shape entire planets, to manipulate their ecosystems, to create entire worlds from nothing. Dr. Elena Vasquez paced the ship's conference room, flipping through holographic projections of the planet they intended to build. Her fingers hovered over the various schematics, eyes alight with excitement. "This is more than just a world, Captain. This is a masterpiece. We can create oceans, forests, mountains, all from raw energy and minerals. The Vault's technology allows us to manipulate matter at an atomic level. We could build the perfect ecosystem, a paradise, if we follow the blueprint carefully." Quinn studied the projections, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "But we're not just building a world, we're building a weapon. The Xanthari might be interested in the scientific advancement, but I don't trust their motives. What are they planning once this world is built?" Harper, leaning against the table, crossed his arms. "They've been pushing us for more and more control over the construction process. They keep hinting that they want to oversee the final stages of the project. I don't think this is just about technological supremacy. There's something they're hiding." Vasquez glanced at Harper, then back at Quinn. They're keeping their cards close to their chest, no question. But Captain, what if we can use this world to our advantage? If we control the process, we could build a sanctuary for humanity, a place where we can protect ourselves from the Xanthari or any other threat. Quinn thought for a moment. The idea was tempting. A world built from the ground up, free from the constraints of old alliances. But even if they succeeded, would they be able to hold on to it? The Xanthari were watching their every move, and their reach extended far beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. "We have to move carefully," Quinn said at last. "We can't afford to trust them entirely. They'll play along for now, but we have to be prepared for the moment when they make their move. We'll keep the control in our hands, at least until we have a foothold. If we give them too much power, it'll all be over." The crew nodded in agreement, but there was an underlying tension that couldn't be ignored. As they moved toward the construction site, they set up mining operations on nearby asteroids, extracting the necessary materials to begin the world-building process. The project had begun in earnest. Over the next few weeks, the construction began in phases. Massive energy converters were set up on the planet's surface, designed to harness and convert the raw energy from the vault's technology into matter. Automated machines, guided by human oversight, began assembling the planet's foundational elements. The atmosphere began to take shape, and soon the first signs of the artificial ecosystem emerged. Vast plains of grass, rolling hills, and towering trees grew from the ground, springing into existence almost overnight. As the team worked, Quinn found herself increasingly drawn to the task. There was something undeniably beautiful about it, a world being built from nothing, with her crew and the Xanthari working side by side, crafting a new future. But that beauty was marred by the constant awareness of the Xanthari's true intentions. The planet was taking shape, but so too were the seeds of distrust and ambition that would soon sprout between the two factions. "Captain, you need to see this," Harper's voice crackled through the intercom. "We've discovered something in the vault's secondary files. It's a blueprint for a weapon, something we didn't know existed." Quinn's stomach tightened. If the Xanthari had left behind plans for a weapon, it could change everything. The dream of building a new world was turning into a nightmare, and she was beginning to wonder if the alliance they'd forged was the trap. Captain Quinn stood in the observation deck of the Endeavour, gazing out at the artificial world taking shape below. The once barren planet now gleamed with life, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and the dangerous alliance they had forged with the Xanthari. Oceans, mountains, and forests spread across the surface, each biome carefully crafted from the blueprints within the vault. But the beauty of the landscape did little to ease the tension gnawing at her mind. The discovery Harper had mentioned haunted her thoughts, a weapon hidden in the vault's secondary files. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was the key to understanding the true nature of the technology they were working with and the Xanthari's real intentions. The Xanthari hadn't just wanted the world, they wanted control. The question was control over what? The team had spent the last few days meticulously going through the new files, trying to decode the weapon's design. And what they found was chilling. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a system capable of manipulating entire solar systems. The power to create and destroy on a scale that could tip the balance of the galaxy. "What are we dealing with here?" Quinn muttered under her breath as she stared at the digital map that showed the sprawling design of the weapon. The Xanthari had known about this for centuries, perhaps longer, and yet they had kept it hidden until now. And now, they had unwittingly handed it over to humanity. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime from her communicator. "Captain, you're needed in the control room." Vasquez's voice came through. Quinn sighed, tapping the comm to acknowledge. "I'll be there in a minute." When Quinn arrived in the control room, Harper was already at the main console, his eyes glued to the screen. The tension in the room was palpable, and the uneasy alliance between humanity and the Xanthari seemed to be unraveling with each passing hour. "What's going on?" Quinn asked, her gaze flicking from Harper to the other officers, all of whom looked equally concerned. "We've been monitoring Xanthari communications," Harper began. "They'd been making subtle changes to the planetary construction parameters. They've adjusted the energy readings coming from the vault's power grid. It's as though they're trying to reconfigure the planet's energy core." Quinn's stomach twisted. The Xanthari had already gained access to the heart of the artificial world's construction process. If they were tweaking the energy grid, it could mean they were preparing to activate the weapon. "Is it possible they're building the weapon now?" Quinn asked, her voice tight with worry. Harper nodded slowly. "If the weapon is linked to the planet's energy system, it would make sense. They're trying to use the planet as a vessel for their weapon, combining the vault's technology with their own power." The implications hit Quinn like a freight train. The Xanthari hadn't been content with just a partnership. They were using humanity to finish a project they had started long ago. They weren't going to share the technology. They were going to take it and use it to solidify their reign over the galaxy. "We need to stop them," Quinn said firmly, her hands clenched into fists. "If they activate this weapon, it's over for us." "I'd already been working on a countermeasure," Vasquez said, stepping forward. "There's a failsafe hidden in the system's design, something the Xanthari missed. It's a shutdown protocol that would cut off the planet's power grid and disable the weapon. But we'll need to access the central core and upload the command manually." Quinn looked at her team, her decision clear. "We're not waiting for them to activate the weapon. We go in now. Harper, get us close to the planet's core. Vasquez, I need that shutdown command ready. The rest of you, prepare for a ground assault. We're taking this planet back." As the crew began to mobilize, Quinn felt a surge of determination. They had built a world, yes, but it was not theirs to lose. And now they had to take it back before the Xanthari turned it into a weapon that could reshape the galaxy in their image. The Endeavor was in full motion, rocketing toward the heart of the artificial world. Quinn stood at the command center, her eyes fixed on the central map of the planet's energy grid. The countdown had begun, and every second that passed pushed them closer to a catastrophic weapon being unleashed. "Harper, status?" Quinn asked, her voice steady but edged with urgency. "We're approaching the core's location," Harper replied, his fingers working furiously at the controls. "Shields are holding, but the closer we get, the more the planet's energy grid is pushing back. We're already feeling some resistance from their systems." Quinn's eyes narrowed. The Xanthari were making their move, no doubt aware of what the Endeavor was trying to do. But they had no choice now. There was no going back. If they didn't stop the weapon, Earth itself could be the next target. "We'll break through," Quinn said. "Prepare for a hard landing. I want boots on the ground within the next 10 minutes. Vasquez, have you got the shutdown protocol ready?" Dr. Vasquez's voice crackled through her comm. "I've accessed the failsafe code, Captain. But the core is protected by multiple layers of security. It's not going to be easy." Quinn gritted her teeth. They had no time to waste. "We don't need easy. We need results. Once we're on the surface, we move fast. No hesitation." As the Endeavor cut through the atmosphere, the planet's surface became a blur of swirling clouds and glowing energy patterns. Quinn could feel the tension rising as the planet's energy field began to pulse around them, as though it were alive, fighting to keep them out. "Captain," Harper said, voice tight, "I'm seeing an influx of Xanthari signals. They're deploying troops to the core. We're going to have company once we land." "Perfect," Quinn muttered. "The more, the merrier. We'll make it through." The Endeavor shuddered as it entered the planet's lower atmosphere, the shields flickering under the strain of the energy field. The crew braced themselves, but Quinn remained calm, focusing on the mission ahead. When the ship touched down, it was rough, but they made it. The landing bay opened, and the crew surged into action. Quinn was the first out, leading the charge as her boots hit the ground. The landscape before them was a bizarre combination of natural beauty and mechanical chaos, with towering structures of alien design surrounded by lush, synthetic forests that seemed almost too perfect to be real. "Move out," Quinn barked as the team fanned out, securing the perimeter. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Every tree and every hill could be hiding an enemy, and the Xanthari were known for their efficiency in battle. Harper, Vasquez, and the rest of the team followed closely behind, their weapons drawn, eyes scanning every direction. The plan was simple: make their way to the core, disable the weapon, and get out. But Quinn knew there was nothing simple about it. The Xanthari weren't going to let them just waltz in and shut things down. They would fight for every inch. "Captain, I'm seeing Xanthari forces ahead," Vasquez reported, her voice steady. "At least a dozen, and they're heavily armed." "We'll deal with them," Quinn said, her voice grim. "Harper, you and Vasquez take point. I'll cover the rear. Stay sharp. No one gets left behind." As the team moved forward, Quinn's senses were on high alert. The air was thick with the hum of energy, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with power. The core was close. She could feel it, and the closer they got, the more she could sense the Xanthari preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Sure enough, the first wave of Xanthari soldiers appeared, their sleek black armor glinting in the artificial light. They moved with deadly precision, weapons raised, ready to engage. "Take cover," Quinn ordered, ducking behind a nearby structure as the first shots rang out. The air was filled with the sound of energy blasts, the crackling hum of advanced weapons echoing through the jungle-like landscape. Harper and Vasquez returned fire, their shots hitting the Xanthari soldiers with pinpoint accuracy, but the Xanthari were relentless. Quinn knew they couldn't stay here long. They had to reach the core, and fast. "Push forward," Quinn shouted, leading the charge once again. "We've got one shot at this." With renewed determination, the team advanced, fighting through the Xanthari forces, their weapons and tactics pushing the aliens back. The core was so close now, just within reach. And then, just as Quinn thought they might make it, the ground shook beneath them. A low rumble echoed through the planet's surface, as if the weapon itself was beginning to activate. "Move, move," Quinn shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. They couldn't afford to be stopped. Not now. The battle for the core had only just begun. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the team pushed forward through the dense jungle of alien flora, their hearts pounding with every step. Quinn's mind raced as they neared the central core of the artificial world. The rumbling beneath them grew louder, reverberating through the air, and she knew time was running out. "Captain, we're close," Harper shouted over the roar of distant explosions, his face set in grim determination. He waved toward the clearing ahead, where a massive structure loomed, surrounded by a glowing energy field that pulsed ominously. "That's the core. We need to disable the energy grid to access it." Quinn nodded, her jaw clenched. "Vasquez, can you override the core's defenses?" Vasquez scanned her data pad, her brow furrowing as she worked quickly. "The Xanthari have fortified it more than I anticipated, but there's still a gap in the system. I'll need a few minutes to gain access. We can't hold off the Xanthari for long, though." "Understood," Quinn said. "Harper, you and the others take up defensive positions. We'll cover you while Vasquez works. Keep your eyes peeled. The Xanthari won't give up this easily." As the team fanned out, Quinn's gaze locked on the glowing core. The weapon was almost ready to activate. They could feel it, the immense power humming just beneath the surface of the artificial world. A weapon capable of destroying entire systems, and it was mere moments from being fully functional. They had to stop it now. The first wave of Xanthari forces appeared from behind the glowing obelisks scattered across the clearing, their sleek, black armor shimmering in the dim light. They moved with brutal efficiency, forming a tight perimeter around the core and drawing weapons that crackled with energy. "Open fire," Quinn shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. A hail of energy blasts erupted from her team's weapons, lighting up the night as the Xanthari soldiers retaliated. The battlefield became a chaotic storm of flashing lights, explosions, and the sharp, eerie hum of alien tech. Quinn dove behind a stone structure, narrowly avoiding an energy pulse that sizzled where she had been standing just a second earlier. "Vasquez!" Quinn yelled, eyes focused on the enemy. "How much longer?" "Just a few more seconds," Vasquez called out, her voice strained as she worked furiously to bypass the security locks on the core's interface. "I almost have it. Just hold them off." Quinn's heart raced as the Xanthari forces closed in, the pressure mounting. She could see Harper and the others holding their ground, but the Xanthari were relentless. The stakes had never been higher. They couldn't afford to be cornered. Not now. "Everyone, fall back to the central structure," Quinn ordered, her voice commanding. "We need to protect Vasquez while she finishes the override." With a coordinated effort, the team began retreating, drawing the Xanthari forces toward them. As they moved, Quinn couldn't shake the feeling that the enemy was trying to herd them toward a trap, to force them into the open. The Xanthari were too organized to be playing this recklessly. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the ground. A new force of Xanthari reinforcements had arrived, their energy shields reflecting the flashes of laser fire from Quinn's team. The pressure intensified as the Xanthari pushed harder, their advanced tactics catching the team off guard. "Vasquez!" Quinn shouted again, desperation creeping into her voice. Now. The screen on Vasquez's data pad flashed green. "I've got it. The core is now accessible. I'm sending the shutdown command." Quinn's relief was short-lived as the ground shook again. The core's energy field flickered, and a blinding light erupted from within the center of the structure. Quinn's pulse quickened as she watched the core begin to power down, but the Xanthari weren't done yet. With terrifying speed, a massive Xanthari warlord appeared, stepping through the energy field with a menacing growl. His armor was adorned with symbols of the Dominion, and his weapon, a massive energy lance, glowed with deadly promise. "You think you can stop the future of the Xanthari?" The warlord's voice thundered across the battlefield. His eyes locked onto Quinn, burning with hatred. "You are nothing but pests, foolish enough to stand against us." Quinn's hand tightened on her weapon, her pulse steady despite the fear in her chest. "You've made a mistake. This ends now." With a sharp command, she and her team launched themselves forward, engaging the warlord with everything they had. The battle was fierce, the ground beneath them shifting as energy blasts and combat strikes lit up the clearing. Every move felt like life or death. And at that moment, Quinn knew the fate of the galaxy depended on them holding the line. The warlord roared, his lance crackling with power, but Quinn was ready. She led the charge, her team at her side. Together, they would stop the weapon or die trying.